There is an extraordinary moment that happens once every year when you reach the threshold of a new cycle. There is a point in time, a point that is not just ordinary, not just any other day, when something profoundly significant is happening, not just in the physical world, but also in the spiritual realms. And Rudolf Steiner, that extraordinary investigator of the invisible worlds, had a very deep and very specific understanding of this phenomenon. He called this moment the spiritual gateway of the new year, and he taught that it wasn't merely a poetic expression. It wasn't just a nice way of talking about transitioning from one year to another. It was actually a true portal. It was a real door. It was a genuine crossing point between two realms, between the realm of time that had passed and the realm of time that was coming. And Steiner taught that when you truly understood the nature of this portal, when you truly internalized what was happening during this extraordinary time, your own life changed profoundly, because you stopped being someone who simply let the days go by. You became someone who was consciously participating in an event of genuine spiritual importance. According to Steiner, the reason there was a genuine spiritual portal in the new year had to do with the nature of time itself. Steiner taught that time was not simply an infinite straight line. It was not simply a uniform progression from moment to moment. Time was, instead, a much more complex and much more spiritual phenomenon than people ordinarily understood. Steiner taught that time was articulated in cycles, and these cycles were not merely conventional or mathematical. They were expressions of a profound cosmic intelligence that governed the evolution of consciousness itself. There were rhythms, there were patterns, there was structure. And so when you reach the end of a cycle, when you reach the point where a cycle completely closed, something extraordinary happened. There was a moment of rupture. There was a moment when the ancient forces that had governed the cycle that was ending were finally able to break free, and a moment when the new forces that would govern the cycle that was beginning were finally able to find their entry point into the world. Steiner offered a very specific understanding of the nature of this portal. According to Steiner, the year that had passed, all those months, all those days, all those moments, had created a form. There was a spiritual structure that had been built through all the actions, thoughts, feelings, and tensions of human beings during that period. And as the year drew to a close, as that structure reached its point of completion, it began to dissolve. It began to disintegrate. He was beginning to return to the spiritual realm from which he had come. And it was precisely at that moment of dissolution, when the old form was dying but had not yet been completely absorbed back into the spiritual, that there was a portal. It was a crossing point. It was a point where the old and the new could meet. It was a point where the old form and the new form managed to coexist briefly. And therefore, during that special period, during those days and hours when the old form was dying and the new form was still being born, you had a unique opportunity. You had an opportunity to be aware. You had an opportunity to consciously participate in this process of death and rebirth. Steiner also taught that there were specific spiritual entities that were particularly present during this period. He taught that there were spiritual beings whose task was to facilitate this transition process. There were beings whose responsibility it was to help dissolve the old form so that it could be properly absorbed back into the spiritual. And there were beings whose responsibility was to prepare the new form so that it could manifest properly in the new cycle. And Steiner taught that these beings, these gatekeepers, these transition facilitators, they were particularly close during this special time. They were particularly active. They were particularly dedicated to helping those who wished to consciously cooperate in this great process of cosmic renewal. Steiner also offered a very important teaching about the profound spiritual meaning of the year that was ending. According to Steiner, each year was like a reincarnation, a complete life in miniature. He was born, it evolved, it reached its peak, and then he died. Just like an ordinary reincarnation, what you did during the year, how you thought, how you felt, how you acted, all of that left a printing. All of this created karma. All of this contributed to his genuine spiritual evolution. Therefore, as the year drew to a close, it was extraordinarily important for you to reflect. May you honestly contemplate what had happened, that you recognize the growth that had occurred, but also that you recognize the opportunities that you had missed, that you honestly face the things you had done that caused harm to yourself or others. Because according to Steiner, when you did this, when you honestly contemplated your year, you were creating the conditions through which the old form of the year could be properly dissolved. It could be absorbed back into the spiritual in a way that was complete, so that you didn't carry anything unnecessary into the new year. Steiner also had very specific teachings about what you should do during this portal period. He recommended that you, as much as possible, spend time in genuine reflection, not reflection that was merely intellectual, but reflection that involved his entire experience, his thoughts, his feelings, his will. He recommended that you contemplate honestly, that you look at the year that was ending with open eyes, without illusion, without denial, but also without harsh self-condemnation. He recommended that you, if possible, remain awake during the hours when the old year was dying and the new year was dawning, because during those hours you had an extraordinary ability to be consciously present in the portal. And when you were consciously present, when you truly observed and participated in this process of death and rebirth, you were able to profoundly affect how that process unfolded. Steiner also taught that there was a work of genuine spiritual alchemy that could occur during this period. According to Steiner, when you honestly contemplated the year that had passed, when you truly faced your failures, your mistakes, your areas of inadequate growth, you were doing something extraordinary. You were transforming raw experience into genuine wisdom. You were transmuting regret into deep understanding. You were alchemically transforming what was merely personal experience into something that had universal value. And Steiner taught that this process of transmutation, this genuine alchemical work, was greatly facilitated during this period when the portal was open, because during this period, the forces that ordinarily supported the physical form were weakened. This created space, literal space in the spiritual realms, in which transformative work could occur. It could occur faster, deeper, more effectively than would be possible at other times of the year. And now here is the extraordinary truth that Steiner was revealing. During this period when the portal was open, during this transition period between years, you had an opportunity that was unique, an opportunity that would not return for the rest of the year. An opportunity to genuinely close the previous cycle, to truly let go of everything that needed to be let go, to genuinely complete everything that was incomplete. Because according to Steiner, if you don't genuinely close a cycle, if you carry the incomplete, the unresolved, the untransformed, you would be starting the new cycle with a burden. I would be starting with unnecessary luggage. It would be starting with unresolved patterns that would repeat themselves again. So the work of genuinely closing the loop, the work of being conscious in the portal, this was the most important work you could do during this special time. Steiner also taught that there was a very specific process through which this genuine closure could occur. According to Steiner, there were 3 stages. The first was remembrance, bringing to consciousness what had happened during the year. Not repression, not denial, but genuine remembrance. You allow the events, experiences, learnings of the year to return to your consciousness. You revisit within yourself those 12 months that had passed. The second step was understanding, allowing a genuine understanding to develop about the meaning of what had happened. Not to judge simply as good or bad, but to really understand how you had grown, what you had learned, how you had been transformed. And the third step was acceptance, allowing that year, with everything it had brought, both the joy and the pain, to be accepted. It was integrated. It was let go in a way that was complete and genuine. And when you had passed through these 3 stages, when you had actually remembering, understanding, and accepting, you had genuinely come full circle. You had completed the work that needed to be done, and you were ready to enter the new cycle in a way that was genuinely new. Steiner also had profound teachings about the meaning of death and the rebirth that was happening during this period. According to Steiner, death, true spiritual death, was not something to be feared. It was actually something to be honored, because death was a necessary part of the process of evolution. It was through death that the old forms could be released. They were able to return to the spiritual and be transformed. They were able to become wisdom that could flow back into a new cycle. And therefore, when the old year was dying, when you honestly faced the death of that cycle, you were honoring a profound cosmic process. You were consciously participating in genuine spiritual alchemy. And Steiner taught that when you genuinely honored the death of the old cycle, when you truly let die that which needed to die, then rebirth could be genuine as well. The new cycle managed to be born in a way that was truly new and could bring fresh energy. It managed to offer genuinely new possibilities. Steiner also taught that there was a genuine spiritual guardian of the portal. There was a specific spiritual entity. Steiner didn't specify exactly who it was, but there was someone whose responsibility was to facilitate this process. And Steiner taught that when you genuinely invoked this guardian, when you genuinely asked for help, this being was able to facilitate your own transition process. Being able to help you let go of what needed to be let go. Being able to help him accept what needed to be welcomed. Being able to help you to be genuinely present on the portal. Therefore, Steiner recommended that during this special period, you consciously invoke the guardian of the portal, that you asked for help. May you allow that being to work alongside you during this extraordinary time. Steiner also offered a teaching on the deep meaning of cycles. According to Steiner, all life was cycles within cycles within cycles. There were daily cycles. When you slept and rested, you completed a cycle. There were weekly cycles. There were monthly cycles. There were annual cycles. And what you're experiencing now was the closing and opening of an annual cycle. But there were also much larger cycles, 7-year cycles, lifetime cycles, generational cycles, cycles that stretched across centuries. And Steiner taught that there was wisdom in understanding this, because when you understood that you were always in cycles, that you were always in the process of death and rebirth, it changed your perspective. This transformed ordinary fear about change into a genuine understanding that change was the very nature of life, that death was a normal part of the process, that rebirth was always possible, because within every death was the potential for a new beginning. Steiner also had very specific teachings about how the portal opened and closed. According to Steiner, the portal did not open and close instantly. It was a gradual process. It began several days before the end of the year and continued several days after the start of the new year. Therefore, during this extended period, for approximately a week before January 1st and a week after, the portal was at varying degrees of openness. By the end of December, the portal was beginning to open. In the period immediately before and after the New Year's threshold, the portal was at its maximum opening, and then, gradually, during the first few days of January, the portal began to close again, and therefore, Steiner taught that you should be particularly attentive throughout this period, not just on the special transition night, although that was the most important, but throughout that week, you were supposed to be contemplative, reflective, aware that you were in a special process. Steiner also taught that there was a particular quality of time during this period. According to Steiner, as you approached the maximum point of the portal's opening, as you approached midnight from December 31st to January 1st, ordinary time began to lose its importance. The clocks continued to tick, but the real time was not the ordinary clock time. There was a deeper time operating. There was a spiritual time. And therefore, if you were genuinely present during that period, if you were truly conscious, you might perceive time differently, being able to experience a feeling of infinity within the finite moment, being able to be present in a genuinely different way, which was possible at other times of the year. Because ordinary time had temporarily lost its rigidity. There was space, there was fluidity, and therefore there was possibility for things that were ordinarily impossible. Steiner also offered a teaching on the meaning of a cycle closes. According to Steiner, when a cycle genuinely closed, when you truly completed it, something extraordinary happened. Because a form that had lived, that had breathed, that had existed, that form was able to return to the spiritual. It could be absorbed back, it could be transformed, and that transformation, that spiritual alchemy that occurred, created something new. It creates a wisdom that can flow back, an understanding that could feed the new. And therefore, when you honestly faced the fact that a cycle was closing, when you actually allowed that cycle to die, you were creating the conditions through which the wisdom of that cycle could flow in a transformed form into the new cycle. Therefore, genuinely closing a cycle was not simply letting something die. It was consciously participating in the transformation of raw experience into genuine wisdom. Steiner also had teachings about what you can consciously bring from the old cycle to the new. According to Steiner, it was not a matter of simply letting everything die. There were certain things, certain achievements, certain understandings, certain qualities of consciousness that you had developed that deserved to be brought into the new cycle. Therefore, during this special period, Steiner recommended that you not only contemplate what you have finished, it recommended that you also consciously honor what you had grown into, that which had developed, that which was truly valuable in the cycle that was ending, and that you consciously choose to take that into the new cycle. Because according to Steiner, when you consciously chose, when you set clear intention about what qualities, what understandings, what achievements you wanted to bring into the new cycle, you were creating a point of continuity. You were creating a thread that connected the old to the new. You were ensuring that the new cycle was not just new, it was new while rooted in what had been genuinely valuable before. Steiner also taught that there were necessary protections during this period when the portal was open. According to Steiner, because the ordinary structures, the structures that ordinarily kept you centered in physical reality, those structures were being weakened. You were more vulnerable. You were more susceptible to both good and bad influences. Therefore, Steiner recommended that you maintain a certain discrimination. May you remain grounded in genuine truth, even as you are exploring the subtler realms, that you would genuinely invoke protection from your spiritual beings, from your guardian angel, from the genuine forces of light. Because even though this period was extraordinary and full of potential, even though it was a time when genuinely transformative things could happen, you should be safe. It should be protected, should have been alert while it was open. Steiner also offers teachings on how to be genuinely present in the portal. According to Steiner, genuine presence was not difficult to achieve, but it required intention. It required you to truly cherish this special moment. It required you to create space, mental space, emotional space, spiritual space, to be present. Therefore, Steiner recommended that you deliberately create this space during this period. May you reduce ordinary distractions. May you slow down. That you created time, even if just an hour, where you could be truly present to what was happening. Because when you created this space, when you actually demonstrated through your actions that you valued this moment, you were opening yourself to the genuine experience of the portal. You were allowing higher realities to come closer to you. You were knowingly participating in this extraordinary event. Steiner also had an extraordinary teaching on the role of celebration during this period. According to Steiner, many cultures had celebrations around the new year. There were festivities. There were community meetings. There was food, drink, joy. And Steiner didn't say these things were wrong. There was nothing wrong with joy and celebration. But Steiner taught that there was a deep spiritual meaning in these celebrations that was ordinarily forgotten. According to Steiner, genuine celebration was, at its deepest level, an act of invocation. It was a guest to the spiritual forces so that they could come and bless the new cycle. It was an expression of genuine hope. It was an affirmation that life, despite its challenges, was worthy of celebration. And when you genuinely celebrated, when you truly expressed joy, you were participating in genuine spiritual alchemy. You were helping to bring the energy of the new cycle into manifestation. Therefore, Steiner did not recommend that you ignore celebrations completely, but it recommended that you recognize its deeper meaning. May you celebrate with genuine awareness. That you understood that your celebration was literally an act of spiritual co-creation. Steiner also taught that there was a particular meaning to being with other people during this period. According to Steiner, while it was important to be in reflection, and while it was important to be in genuine contemplation, it was also important to be in community, because when you were with other people, when you shared this special time with them, something extraordinary could happen. Individualities managed to dissolve into a collective consciousness. And in this collective consciousness, in this genuine union, spiritual work could be amplified. It could be much more powerful than if you were alone. Therefore, Steiner recommended that you try to be with others, with people who understood the spiritual importance of this period, if possible, or at least with people you genuinely loved. Because being in genuine love, being in genuine community, this amplified the work that could be done on the portal. Steiner also offered a private teaching for those who felt that the year that was ending had been especially difficult. Steiner said that it didn't matter how many hardships you had faced. There was value in it. Because most spiritual growth happened through difficulty. It happened through confrontation with genuine challenges. So when the year had been difficult, when you had suffered, you had been presented with an extraordinary opportunity to grow. And as you came to the end of that year, as you saw how you had handled those difficulties, as you recognized the strength you had discovered within yourself, you were honoring that genuine growth. You were recognizing the spiritual alchemy that had occurred. And so Steiner taught that even a difficult year, perhaps especially a difficult year, deserved to be honored when it came to an end. It deserved to be recognized as a year that had transformed him, like a year that had genuinely contributed to his spiritual evolution. Steiner also had profound teachings about the void, that space between the old and the new that existed when the portal was open. According to Steiner, this emptiness was not a frightening absence. It was actually a space full of potential. It was like the emptiness of a womb, seemingly empty, but actually full of potential for new life. And Steiner taught that when you could be genuinely comfortable in this void, when you could be in this space of transition without despair, without anxiety, something extraordinary could occur. It could emerge. I could be born. Because this void was truly a space of creation. It was a space where cosmic creative forces were able to work. And therefore, when you rested in this emptiness, when you really allowed yourself to be in this space of genuine uncertainty, you were opening yourself to genuine creation. You were participating in the work of cosmic forces. You were leaving space for the truly new to be born. Steiner also taught that there was a special significance to water during this period. According to Steiner, water was a transitional substance. It was an element that could fluidize, that could transform, that could dissolve old forms. Therefore, when you, during this special period, washed yourself with water, when you drank water, when you were simply near water, a river, a lake, the sea, you were participating in a process of purification and transformation. You were invoking the transformative quality of water. You were allowing the old structures to be fluidized. Therefore, Steiner recommended that during this period you have a certain awareness of water. May you honor her, that you would allow it to work on you, literally and spiritually. Steiner also had a particular teaching on fear during this period. According to Steiner, it was natural to feel a certain fear when you approached a genuine portal, because you were leaving behind something known, the year that had passed, and moving towards something unknown, the year that was coming. And therefore, a certain fear was understandable. But Steiner taught that you shouldn't let fear paralyze you. Instead, He should recognize fear as a sign that something genuinely important was happening. You should use fear as fuel to be more attentive, more aware, more present. Because according to Steiner, fear transformed into genuine vigilance. Fear that was honored and then consciously transmuted into action was extraordinarily powerful. This put him on the side of genuine understanding. This placed him on the side of conscious participation. And now, here is the central insight that Steiner offered about this extraordinary portal. He said that when you truly understood what was happening, when you truly internalized the spiritual reality of the portal, you stopped being someone who simply let the years pass by. You became someone who was consciously participating in creating your own future. Because what you did during this period, what you thought, what you felt, what you intended, all of that had genuine weight. All of this had genuine power. All of this managed to significantly affect how the new cycle would unfold. And therefore, when you reached the portal, when you were aware, when you were present, when you were genuinely engaged in the work of closing the old cycle and welcoming the new, you were becoming a true co-creator of your future. Steiner also offered a teaching on how you can know if you have genuinely honored the portal. According to Steiner, there were certain signs. If you felt that you had genuinely let the old cycle die, if you had let go of resentments, sadness, pain that you had carried, that was a sign that you had genuinely honored the portal. If you felt that you had consciously brought into the new cycle the qualities, the understandings, the achievements that were genuinely valuable, that was also a sign that you had genuinely honored the portal. If you felt genuine hope, not illusory hope, but realistic hope based on the understanding that you had grown, that you had learned, that you were genuinely different, that was the final sign that you had genuinely honored the portal. Therefore, as you passed through the portal, as you approached that special midnight and then moved away from it, Steiner recommended that you observe these signs in yourself, that you recognized when you had genuinely honored the portal. Steiner also had a teaching on the spiritual meaning of a cycle closes. According to Steiner, when a cycle genuinely closed, when you honored it completely, there was a particular feeling. There was a sense of completion. There was a feeling that something had really been finished, not abruptly, but genuinely. And this feeling of true closure, was extraordinarily important. Because without this, without you truly feeling that a cycle had closed, you would continue dragging patterns from the past into the future. He would continue to be haunted by what had not been completed. But when you honestly felt that a cycle had closed, when you really knew this, then you had genuine freedom. So you could start genuinely new. So the new cycle was not merely a dull continuation of the past, but was actually a new opportunity, a new life, a new beginning. Steiner also taught that there was a special gift the new year offered you if you honored the portal properly. According to Steiner, each new cycle, each new year came with a gift. It was as if the cosmic forces that governed evolution were saying, here is a new year with new possibilities, with new potential, with new opportunity for you to evolve. But you had to be open to receive this gift. I had to be aware of him. I had to be genuinely present to receive it. Therefore, Steiner recommended that you, during this special period, during the period when the portal was open, truly open your heart, truly open your mind. Truly open your being to receive what the new cycle wanted to offer you. Because the new year had something for you, something specially designed for you, something that was exactly what you needed for your genuine spiritual development in the coming year. Steiner also offered a teaching on the role of intention during this special time. According to Steiner, when you set genuine intention, not ordinary New Year's resolutions that you forgot in February, but genuine intention based on a deep understanding of who you were and who you genuinely wanted to be, when you set that intention during this period when the portal was open, his intention had extraordinary power. It had genuine weight. He had a genuine ability to affect the coming year. Therefore, Steiner recommended that you not neglect this work of setting intention, that you took time, genuinely, to consider what your genuine intention was for the new cycle, not just on an ordinary level, that would be convenient to accomplish, that would be socially acceptable, but your genuine intention on the level of your soul. What was really the spiritual work you wanted to do in the new year? Who was the person you really wanted to become? And when you had genuine clarity about this, when you set that intention during this special time, you were sowing a seed that was able to grow vigorously for the entire year that followed. Steiner also taught that there was a multiplicative effect when many people honored the portal simultaneously. According to Steiner, when you were genuinely doing this work, when you were consciously present in the portal, honestly reflecting, genuinely celebrating, setting intention, you were not just affecting your own life. You were contributing to a collective transformation. Because when many people, even if they weren't physically together, were doing this work simultaneously, there was a field effect that was created. There was a collective elevation of consciousness. There was an amplification of the work that could happen on the portal, and therefore Steiner taught that you must be aware, even if you are honoring the portal alone in your room, that there are millions of other people throughout the world who are simultaneously honoring the portal, and that their individual participation, although it seemed small, was contributing to this extraordinary collective transformation that was happening throughout humanity. Steiner also had a final and extraordinary teaching on the true meaning of being consciously in the portal. He said that when you were genuinely present, when you truly honored the work that needed to be done, you were participating in something that was much bigger than yourself. You were participating in genuine cosmic alchemy. You were working alongside the forces that governed the evolution of human consciousness itself. You were, quite literally, helping to create the future. Not just your individual future, but the collective future of humanity. Because every person who genuinely honored the portal, every person who genuinely closed one cycle and genuinely opened another, every person was contributing to the spiritual evolution of the entire human race. And therefore, Steiner taught that you should never underestimate the importance of this work that you were doing during this special period. He should recognize that it was sacred work, cosmic work, work that had implications that extended far beyond yourself. Steiner also offered a very poetic and very profound vision of what happened when you genuinely honored the portal. He asked you to imagine, during this special period, that the veils that ordinarily separated the material world from the spiritual world were becoming transparent, that you could, if you were truly attentive, glimpse higher realities, that the spiritual beings who were here to help him, his guardian angel, the gatekeepers, the cosmic forces of evolution, that these beings were able to get much closer than they ordinarily could, and that when you honored the portal, when you truly reflected, when you truly let the old die, when you truly welcomed the new, you were truly meeting these beings face to face. You were having genuine communion with spiritual realities. And this communion, this genuine connection with the higher worlds, this was the most precious gift the portal had to offer. It wasn't simply sentimental, it was a genuine encounter with genuine reality. Steiner also had teachings for those who felt they had lost the portal. Perhaps he had spent the night in transit without being particularly conscious. Perhaps he had been distracted or inattentive during this special period. Steiner said it was never too late. The portal did not close completely in the first days of January. You still had time. You can still do the work of genuinely closing the previous cycle. You can still genuinely honor the new cycle. Therefore, you should not despair. It should instead start now. In the first few days of the new year, you can still take time for genuine reflection. You can still honestly contemplate the previous year. You also need to establish genuine intention for the new year. And although that work was best done during the portal's maximum opening period, it was always possible to do, as long as you genuinely wanted and were willing to do it. Steiner also offered a final message about hope. He said that as you move through the portal, as you leave behind the previous cycle and move toward the new, you should be filled with genuine hope. Because each new cycle, each new year, was a new opportunity. It was a genuine chance to be different, to genuinely evolve, to bring more awareness into your life, to live more fully, to love more genuinely, to contribute more significantly. Therefore, you shouldn't desperately carry the weight of the previous cycle into the new one. You should let go of what needed to be let go. You should honor that which was genuinely valuable. And you were to move forward with genuine hope, with genuine awareness that you were different now, that you had grown, that you were genuinely equipped to participate genuinely more fully in the new cycle that was beginning. Steiner ultimately offered this as his supreme message about the spiritual gateway of the new year. He said that this portal, this extraordinary transition point that happened once every year, this was much more important than most people understood. It was not simply a sentimental or poetic moment. It was a genuine point where spiritual reality became accessible, where the old managed to genuinely die and the new managed to genuinely be born, where you had the genuine power to affect, through your choices, through your consciousness, through your participation, how the next cycle would unfold. And therefore, when you arrived at the portal, when you arrived at that special period, Steiner taught that you should be fully aware of the extraordinary thing that was happening. You should be fully engaged. You should genuinely honor the work that needed to be done. And when you did this, when you truly honored the portal, you found that you were transformed, that you were genuinely new, that you had truly participated in co-creating your future. And so, when you arrived at this special period, when you found yourself at that extraordinary threshold between years, Steiner offered this as a truth that you should take with you, that you weren't merely letting the days pass by, that you weren't simply waiting passively while time flowed by, that you were truly an active participant, that you had genuine power, that your work during this period, your work to honestly reflect, to genuinely let the old cycle die, to genuinely welcome the new, this work had genuine cosmic importance. Therefore, Steiner offered this as a final recommendation. During this special period when the portal was open, during these days around the transition from one year to another, you should take time. It should create space. They should be genuinely present. I should do the spiritual work that needed to be done. And when you did this, when you truly honored the portal, you discovered that you were part of something extraordinary. You were part of a cosmic transformation. You were a true co-creator of the future. Steiner also wanted you to know this, that when a cycle genuinely closes, it is not death in the ordinary sense. It is a continuation of a higher form. It's a transformation. It is a transcendence. Therefore, when the previous year came to an end, when you honestly viewed your death as a cycle, you should not be scared. You should be honored. He should recognize that he was participating in a profound cosmic process, that the ancient form was returning to the spiritual to be transformed into wisdom, and may the wisdom, that alchemy that was occurring, that be able to flow back to help you in the new cycle. Therefore, genuinely closing a cycle, genuinely letting a year die, this was not a loss. It was liberation. It was transformation. It was the first step towards genuine rebirth. Steiner also offered this for you to take with you as you passed through the portal, that you were more than you knew, that you had capabilities that you hadn't activated, that within you there was genuine potential for extraordinary evolution, and that when you honored the portal, when you consciously participated in this period of transition, you were activating that potential. You were invoking those capabilities. You were awakening what was sleeping inside you. Therefore, you should not neglect this work. You should honor it. It should recognize its importance. And when you did this, when you truly honored the spiritual gateway of the new year, you discovered that you were never the same, that you had actually participated in a transformation, that you had truly become new. Steiner finally offered this as the central truth, that a cycle closes, always, invariably. One year ends, a form dies, and a new cycle begins, a new form is born. And at that transition point, at that extraordinary portal, you had an opportunity that was unique, an opportunity to participate consciously, an opportunity to choose, an opportunity to genuinely co-create the future. And when you responded to that opportunity, when you truly honored the portal, you discovered that you were capable of things you had not imagined possible, that you had power, that you have meaning, that your life is important, that his work on the portal, work of genuine death and genuine rebirth, this had genuine cosmic importance. And therefore, when you passed through the portal, when you left the 1 year ago and moved toward the new one, you should be full of awareness that you had actually participated in an extraordinary transformation. A cycle had truly closed, and you had truly become new, because this was the truth that Rudolf Steiner had spent his life investigating and revealing. That reality, true reality, was much more than what you could see with your ordinary eyes, that there were worlds. There was intelligence, there were beings, there were cosmic forces, and that you ordinary, you who sometimes felt small and insignificant, you had access to this superior reality. You had the ability to access it, to participate in it, to co-create with her. And particularly during this special period, during this period when the portal was open, you had an extraordinary opportunity to be aware of this, to experience this, to transform your life through this. So when you reached the end of a year, when you found yourself at that special threshold, Steiner offered this as a calling, a wake-up call, a call to be aware, a call to genuinely participate, a call to honor the spiritual portal that was opening for you. Because when you answered that call, when you truly honored the portal, you discovered that your life was never the same, that you had truly transformed, that you had truly grown up, that you had truly participated in an event of genuine cosmic importance. So when the portal opened, when the year ended and another began, you were supposed to be there, completely present, completely conscious, completely engaged. And when you were there, when you truly honored the portal, you became what you were meant to be. You became a genuine co-creator, a genuine participant in cosmic evolution, a being who had truly participated in the sacred work of death and rebirth. And when that was over, when you had passed through the portal, you moved forward into the new transformed cycle, renovated, genuinely new. A cycle closes, always. And this is the final understanding that Rudolf Steiner offered, that the spiritual portal of the new year was not merely a poetic expression. It was a genuine reality. It was a genuine door. It was a genuine transition point between two kingdoms. And when you genuinely honored that portal, when you consciously participated in it, you discovered that you were participating in genuine cosmic alchemy, that you were a being of genuine power, that his life had genuine cosmic meaning, and that every year, every cycle, you had the opportunity to participate in this extraordinary transformation, to genuinely close the old one, to genuinely receive the new, to become genuinely transformed. So when you came to the portal when you were at that extraordinary point of transition, you had to remember this, that you weren't just letting a year pass by, that you were participating in a sacred event, that you were a genuine co-creator of your future, and that when you genuinely honored that portal, when you truly let the old die and genuinely welcomed the new, you became what you were truly destined to be. A consciously awakened being, a genuine participant in cosmic evolution, a truly living human. A cycle closes. And you will be there, completely aware, completely present, completely transformed.